30%, your credit score is going to fall. So you gotta think about all these things. It also, if you only had one card at all, and you want to close this card, it's absolutely going to impact your mix. Your mix now, you used to have revolving and installment loans. So you had some type of credit. That's 10% of your credit score. You close that card. Now what? Now you do not have a mix. You don't have a good mix. You only have installment loans. And so you don't get the full credit or the amount of points that you would get for that 10% of your credit score that is considered your mix. So there's a whole lot of things to consider when you talk about closing a credit card. But if you have now established yourself, you've got a good credit score, that card, you're just paying that annual fee, $45 a year, $50 a year, $75 a year, or God forbid, even higher than that, you might want to consider closing that particular card. If you need help analyzing this and trying to see if you should actually do this or not, don't just go out there willy-nilly and start closing cards. And don't close more than one. Please don't close more than one at one time, because I don't want to get the email from you and the screaming emails with all caps saying you told me to close that credit card. What I'm telling you to do is contact me before you do so. You want help trying to decide to keep it or get rid of that credit card? Contact me. Contact me first. So send me an email, 800@creditscoreman.com. You can also contact me on Instagram or Facebook, or join the Credit Score Comeback group. Ask everybody and their mama in the Credit Score Comeback group what their opinion is. What do they think you should do? I'll chime in as well. But on Facebook, you can catch me at 800 Credit Score Man. Instagram, 800 Credit Score Man on Instagram. Send me a message there. And, of course, email me, 800@creditscoreman.com, if you've got questions and you're trying to decide, should I or shouldn't I close this particular card. All right, so what did we talk about so far? We talked about sky-high interest rates. So you're going to watch out for those, sky-high interest rates, high annual fees. You want to watch out for those. Make sure it doesn't have a high annual fee. And if it does, if you think it's worth it, if it's actually worth it, then go ahead, keep that card or whatnot. But you want to watch out for those things. Now, when it comes to people with lower credit scores and trying to get a credit card and improve your credit, a lot of these places have additional fees. So not only could you be paying a high interest rate, you can have a high annual fee, but then oftentimes there are additional fees. And this is the kind of card that people call me and say, I don't like credit cards. They always get you. So when they say get you, oftentimes I have to break it down and ask them, what do you mean? Well, they keep charging me different things and I'm not even using the credit card. This is one of the things that happens. They get additional fees. Some places will charge you a fee for non-usage. They'll charge you a fee for using it too much. They just charge you a fee for all kinds of stuff. So, again, I hate paying for stuff that you don't have to. So, if there is an application fee when you're trying to get the thing in the first place, or you see that there's a monthly maintenance fee, that's like a bank account that has a monthly maintenance fee. So, if it's got an application fee or monthly maintenance fee, you want to avoid these kinds of cards. You don't even want to sign up for them. So, you just keep looking for other options. Do not take a place that's going to, you got to read that fine print sometime. Do not take a place that's going to charge you additional fees for applying for the card and things of that nature. You don't want to do that. That's not the kind of card that you want. And there are other options. If there were no other options and this was the only thing that you could do, then you might have to bite the bullet and do that. But trust me, there are other options out there, and you can always contact me and I can help you find some of those other options as well. This is another thing that is a must-have. A must-have if you're going to be getting a credit card. They must report to all three credit bureaus. If they don't report to all three credit bureaus, then what's the point? Really, what's the point? The idea is to have an excellent account in terms of your credit utilization and your payment history. So you want it to help you out as much as it can. So not having a good account listed on one or two of the credit bureaus will cause your credit scores to be lower. They'll cause them to be different, and it could be vastly different. So all the time people say, why is my, Experian this number and my TransUnion is another number? And they're 60 points apart or they're 70 points apart. Oftentimes, my first thing I say to them is, what's on one that's not on the other? It could be something good or bad. So I counsel people, go look at your collections portion. You got collections on one that are not on the other. So if you have a collection missing from a credit report, then the other credit report probably has a higher score. But if you've got an account missing from one credit report, then the other one, the one where the account is missing, that credit score is going to be lower because they're not calculating all these wonderful on-time payments that you've been doing. They're not making that calculation. So you're saying, like, so what? What if they're not on all three of the credit bureaus and whatnot? So let's look at it like this. What if your good card doesn't report to Experian, but you go to a car dealership or you go to a personal loan company, and that particular company or car dealership uses Experian to look at your credit report? So we just said you got an account and it's not reporting to Experian, but you go to a place and they use Experian. Not all places, and most places don't, unless you're looking for unless you're trying to get a mortgage. Most places don't pull all three credit bureaus when you're trying to buy a car, motorcycle, or getting a personal loan. They use one credit bureau. They may have a contract with Experian. Now, your account isn't showing up on Experian. This good account, you've had it 2-3 years, you paid on time each and every time, and you have a low credit utilization on it. It's not showing up on Experian. What does that mean then? Your score is lower on Experian than it should be. Now then, what does this cause? This could cause you to be denied, or it can cause you to pay a higher interest rate because that score is lower. So it's important that when you get an account, and since we're talking about credit card accounts, that they report to each and every credit bureau: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. They must report to all three credit bureaus. Some places, if you ask them, they'll say, no, we don't report to all three, especially these lower tier places. But if you're talking about a place that you run by all the time, I mean, you see them on every street corner or whatever, they're national places or huge regional, banks, and you have a card with them, then absolutely, most of the time, they're going to report to all three. Just as a general company rule, they're going to do that. So make sure that they report to all three when it comes to that. Now, if you do, what happens, or what should you do if you find that one of your cards or any account isn't reporting to all three credit bureaus? If you find that it's not reporting to all three credit bureaus, call the account, not the credit bureau. So if it's reporting on Experian and Equifax, then you need to call the company, whatever it is. Let's just pick on somebody. Let's pick on Citibank today. So you have a Citibank credit card, or you have Citi has a place called, well, it used to be called Citi Financial. So they do personal loans, they finance furniture and, stuff like that. Let's say you have an account with Citi Financial, which I think their name now is One Main. Let's say you have a place like that, and they're reporting to Experian and Equifax, but not TransUnion. You call them. You call One Main, Citi Financial, whoever it is. You call them and say, hey, you're not reporting to TransUnion, and I need you to report to TransUnion. They'll go ahead, click the button or whatever it is they have to do on their end, and they will go ahead and report it to all three credit bureaus. And it won't start from that day. It'll go back to the beginning of your account. So it'll show everything that should have been on there, and then they can rectify that particular issue for you. So make sure that they report to all three credit bureaus when you're looking for a credit card, because it can make a difference for sure. So let's talk about something else, and we're going to get out of here. High credit limits. High credit limits. Sounds like a great deal, right? But not always. So some of these places may give you a high limit, but the devil is in the details. So to access the higher range of that limit, you pay a higher interest rate. Right. You heard me. So you'd be amazed at what some of these lower tier places would do. Again, I'll say it again. To access the higher range of that limit, you pay a higher interest rate. So here's what I'm talking about. So if a company gave you a $10,000 limit, and you're amazed that they even gave you a $10,000 limit first. If you're amazed that they gave you that much money, sometimes, things that are too good to be true are too good to be true. So they gave you a $10,000 limit. You better read the fine print in there. And it could say, in that fine print, it could say that anything over a certain amount has a different interest rate. That's no bueno. That is not good at all. Not good at all. So it could say, all right, up to the first $3,000 that you spend on this $10,000 limit, you'll pay an interest rate of XYZ. Then $3,001 up to the $10,000 limit, you pay a different interest rate. And oftentimes it's a higher interest rate and not a lower interest rate for that particular amount. So you make sure you got to read the fine print. And if the credit limit is way higher than you think it should be, way higher than if you have other cards, and it's so much higher than your other cards and whatnot, then you need to make sure you read the fine print on that, because a high credit limit is not always the best thing for you. Now, it's good for you if you got discipline. It's good, really good for you if you got discipline. A few weeks ago, somebody contacted me and said, hey, I'm just addicted to using my credit cards. A high credit limit is not good for that particular person. You got to know thyself, right? A high credit limit is not good for that particular person. So you make sure that you're disciplined and savvy enough to know what to do if they do give you a high credit limit, or if you're already in one of these cards. If you're already in one of these kinds of cards, that doesn't mean you have to get rid of it right now. That just means you need to strategically use it or not use it and get ready to try to pay that bad boy down. Doesn't even mean you need to close it. Doesn't mean you need to close it. And since I'm saying close, somebody's going to be listening to the show and they're going to say, oh my God, I need to close this card. This card is ridiculous. Do not, if I could scream, I would scream. Do not close a card with a balance on it. Do not close a card that you currently have a balance on it. It causes way more trouble and flux with your credit score than need be. Do not close a card with a balance on it, because too many things happen bad for you. It's like, so here's what happens. So if you close that card, you lose that payment history, right? You lose that payment. If it's been good, you're going to lose that payment history, right? So you lose the payment history on it, 35% of your credit score. Your credit utilization goes way up, more so than if you just close a card without a limit on, without a balance on it at all. Your credit utilization goes way up because now your limit has been taken away from you. You no longer have access to that, but you actually owe. So even if it's only $1,000 card, that entire and you owe $500 on it, that's a 50% credit utilization. Now you're over. You're way over because you don't have a limit at all, but you still owe them $500. So that causes major trouble. And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about these credit cards lowering people's limits because of the whole coronavirus and everything that's going on without their knowledge, without their consent and whatnot. And that's raising your credit utilization, which is lowering your credit score. So with them doing that, some people are going to find themselves with a credit limit that's lower than what their balance is. And then what does that cause for you? That causes you to have a fee for going over your balance, and it also causes fluctuations in your credit utilization. So make sure that you pay attention to all these kinds of things that happen, all right? Okay, let's go to the last couple of ones. Lack of technology. I mean, it just nowadays you can do anything and everything online. If they don't have an app or they don't have a way for you to get online, take a look at your account and whatnot, you don't need that particular card. That means they have not invested at all in their own system, and they're subject to really kind of screw you over at the end of the day. So if it has a lack of technology, if the only thing you can do to check your balance is to call the 800 number like it's 1996 or something, do not do not get that card. If they don't have an app, if they don't have a website where you can